In a romantic fantasy novel, The Taming of the Transcendental of the Catastrophic Level, there is a concept, awakened. These awakened ones are divided into two categories: those who go beyond human capabilities and show amazing abilities with the help of magic, transcendentals, and the one who controls and stabilizes the magical power of transcendentals prone to getting out of control. These awakened ones are considered the weapons and power of the state. A military academy was founded in the Valegrian Kingdom, where the events of the novel unfold. Those who, after the first manifestation, had the makings of an awakened person, or at least something similar, were admitted there. Those who get there do not always fully understand what awaits them further. For them it is like a complete unknown. Then they were brought to the second manifestation, raising them as transcendentals or cades, looking at who was better suited for what. Why does the girl talk about it in such detail? Because she just realized that she got into the book. Moreover, she realized that she had become Liliopa Ortiz, a secondary character, a guide who dies, accidentally fell under the second manifestation of the main character, the S-class transcendentalist, at the time of a classmate's caning. She did not believe until the end that such a thing had happened to her. She tried to feel whether it was some kind of dream or her vivid imagination, but everything turned out to be real. The plot? The taming of the transcendental of the catastrophic level, such an illegitimate son of the ducal family, which produced the most transcendentals, the main character, Actaeon. As befits the main character, like characters from other romantic fantasies and traumas of the past, Actaeon also experiences some event, because of which they receive a terrible psychological trauma, which he can barely cope with. To this is added the unstable nature of the transcendent, and the mind gradually descending into the field of vision. Actaeon meets one girl who turns out to be the main character, the S-class kid, Milia. After this, Actaeon, who received national kiting, finally loses his head, and frank scenes unfold between them under the pretext of kiting. How good and wonderful it would be if everything ended with this, but it turned out a little not as we would like. The problem is that the main villain was added to the plot to fit the genre. It turned out to be her younger brother, Hyakin, and even his death was pitiful, as befits a real thief. While the girl was thinking about it, she accidentally said some words out loud, and her friend thought that she had done something wrong. The lady explained that she had nothing to do with it, that it was just thinking out loud. And meanwhile, a professor with a tablet was standing next to them and was getting acquainted with the information. At the beginning, she saw some unknown word and thought that it was some kind of illness or allergy in Milia. The woman asks, "What's wrong with her?" And the girl explains that everything is fine. After all, Kading is holding hands. After which she said that she was glad to hear it, and that the manifestation had already ended, so they could leave. Finally, the woman advised, just in case, if any side effects appear later, the girl can come to her for help at any time. Because, as everyone knows, there are significantly fewer Cades than Transcendents, so they must help and fight for the life of each of the minorities. The professor almost forgot. She also asked them not to forget that her body belongs not only to herself, but also to the state. Milia smiled sweetly and promised to remember these words, and thanked once again for the care that she has recently been receiving literally at every step. After this, she has such thoughts, even though they refer to children here, as to weapons, but to speak about it out loud, it is already too much. This world is hopeless. It's good at least that she remembered everything right now. Otherwise, it would have been wasted, so I didn't understand anything. First of all, you need to check what today's number is, because without it there is no point in moving further and planning something. The date and time of the keying are saved in the controller bracelet, so you can watch it right now on it. The girl looked at the time and realized that only 6 months remained before the main character's admission. And since time flies imperceptibly in this world, it is not so much. She immediately began to panic because in a world where she is threatened with death and there is little time for salvation, it is impossible to be calm. She literally jumped out of her seat and began to think about how to survive here. And for this, she needs at least to be alone and plan something, or to assess the situation around her in silence and calmness. Only she began to think about the goal, realized that she started with the right thoughts. The main thing is not to lose motivation before time. Meanwhile, literally half an hour later, that woman again called her to her office and asked her to come as soon as possible. In the end, the conversation did not go as planned by the professor. This time, the girl took the initiative. The woman thought a little, and only after a few minutes realized that it turned out that she now has an application for an academic leave on her desk. Only that it did not fit into her plans for her. Millie explained that she would just go home for a short time and would even try to return faster than what was written on the application. But the woman was not going to agree. She offered to discuss something else. She began to have all kinds of questions. Maybe the girl felt something wrong with her body or mind during the cating, or did someone insult her or use force during the second manifestation, to which the student replied that everything is fine with her body and there are no problems that anyone should worry about. The fact is that she just really missed her younger brother, without whom she can no longer live. She began to express pity that he has only her among his family, and he has been living alone since she woke up, so she really needs this trip. In addition, immediately after her release, she will be immediately sent to a military base. To which the woman asked if she correctly understood that the girl wanted to spend time with her only relatives before being taken somewhere for a long time. In the end, she listened to her and agreed to allow her this vacation. After all, if Milia gathers strength during this time, it will be even better that way. In fact, no matter how it all looks at first glance, the lady perfectly understands that this way, the woman is just laying a straw in case her brother also turns out to be awake, like her. And here it is not a matter of human kindness at all. It is simply a mutually beneficial arrangement, nothing more. Finally, the woman asked, not to forget that Milia is not just a student, a valuable cadre who will go to the battlefield. In this case, the girl thought that she could leave, but the conversation, as it turned out, is not over yet. The professor asks if the lady remembers what she should remember. She also said that the controller will immediately notify her and the observers of unauthorized cating through her bracelet, so the girl will almost always be under surveillance, even at a distance. The woman asked her not to cause unnecessary problems, especially since they agreed that she would just rest and come back with new strength. Or Milia has already spoken about this more than once, but she repeated again that she will try not to disappoint anyone and return as soon as possible. She doesn't like that this conversation took much more time than it could have. It's obvious that there's no point in explaining what they've already agreed on. The girl understands that if she herself does not stop it, then it will continue very long and boring. She wished a good day and left to change her fate and the fate of Hayakin because no one would do it for her. Only she left the office, after which she immediately got on the magic train and went to the estate of the Count of Lorraine, because this person can help her with something, and in the shortest possible time. Method number 1. Here she has already arrived at the address, met some guy with a broom at the entrance and greeted him nicely to make a good impression. He asks who she is and what she is doing here, although it did not sound very pleasant, but she continues to pretend that nothing happened. Milia explained that she came here because she wants to meet one person. In fact, this will help her eradicate all the depressing moments from the originals. In the novel, Hayakin, as a candidate for awakening, lived in the house of Count Lorraine, who acted as his patron. The problem was that the County of Lorraine was a bad sponsor. Blinded by the thirst for profit, the Count of Lorraine wanted to make Hyacinth go through the first awakening as soon as possible. Together with his son, he beat and mocked him daily. These memories became a trauma for Hayakin and greatly affected his psyche, after which he still could not recover. In the end, the guy, who became a dark horse and a thief, in revenge for that time, destroyed the entire family of the Count of Lorraine in the most cruel and terrible way. But the girl does not want Hayakin to live a painful life, so if it is possible, she will try to fix it too. Meanwhile, the lady says that her brother lives here and she hasn't seen him for quite some time, so she came here for a while, to which the guy replied that everyone is busy now because of working hours. She was already almost upset, but he suddenly asked imperceptibly to find out everything for her, if she certainly did not mind waiting for him. It seems that he took her for a relative of one of the servants, but in any case, it is better that way than if he did not even listen to her and asked her to leave here. In the meantime, he offers to go with her, while she goes here with her brother, since she is not often in the capital, and the lady does not refuse, although she understands that this is the most obvious trick that he could only think of. Time passed, and now he already offers her to go inside, so that he can show her the mansion from the inside while he has free times. Naturally, the escort could not mention that only thanks to him she could enter like this, and hinted that this whole situation should remain a secret. Then he asks what her brother's name is, because he remembered that he had not asked her this question until now, to which she replied that his name is... The guy was surprised because he had never heard such a name before, and could not remember even one person who could fit this situation. After that, he wanted to guess her name, and she did not mind. Milia even became interested in what name might suit her according to the opinion of strangers. The guy suggested that parents most likely give names associated with flowers to such beautiful girls as her. He only mentioned one option, daisies, and she didn't even hear him and asked that it was far away. The girl pointed to that place, and he first tensed and then said that he could not tell about this to a stranger, but can only advise that if suddenly she wants to get closer there, then it is better not to do this, especially if there is no one around. In the end, he couldn't hold back, couldn't keep silent, and told that lately the Count and the young master have been constantly training one person to awaken his powers. No one can go there. When he added that there were many scenes unpleasant for women's eyes, he looked at her and saw that she was already going there. He hints that there she can see something that her psyche cannot withstand, and she seems to have stopped noticing it. In fact, she just feels that her brother is here, and while she went to see him, she didn't even consider it necessary to explain anything. She just wants to look at him, how he has changed, and make sure that everything is not as bad as she imagined, because that's the only way it will be easier for her. Here she has already come here, collected all her emotions together, and, no matter how difficult it may be, did not start a scandal. But first assessed the situation. She certainly understood that she would see him in such a state, but when she looked at him in person, she became him like no one, and never before in her life. And it is very painful to look at these hairs, which she once combed. They were tangled and faded, and his body dried up like a tree branch. It's very interesting how everything will end, because she probably won't look at it for a long time and keep silent. These people will get what they deserve sooner or later. For sure, she would ideally go and put them in his place so that they could feel, at least for a second, what her brother feels every day. Meanwhile, the girl puts her hand in her pocket and thinks about the fact that conductors are taught to control their emotions. But are there many who can hold back their anger at the sight of such a thing? And she was also sitting on something similar to a round blue candy. Only it seems that it is not quite a candy, but something more interesting. This is what will help her restore justice and punish these villains, only because of the condensed power of the awakened. The taste is a little bitter. Then she thought that there is nothing you can do. The conductors have no strength, and after that she began to approach them closer. The younger thief turns around and asks, "Who is so naughty here and who dared to enter where it is forbidden?" Then he saw her, of course, immediately recognized her, and was even horrified because he probably understood why she was here. Instead of being worried and afraid, she has only one exciting thought inside her: to arrange such a thing on the very first day of the academic vacation. This is very brave, and Millia is proud of herself. And when her brother raised his head and saw a man whom he had never expected to see here, he was speechless. It even seemed to him that this was his hallucination, because after what he experienced, it is not surprising, and he is ready to believe it more than the fact that it is happening in reality and she came to save him. Meanwhile, Millia continues to direct energy at them, and at the same time says that, first of all, she is not awakened, and secondly, why is she doing this? Because she saw how they punished her younger brother with impunity, who does not deserve it and who has no opportunity to resist. And if they thought that nothing would happen to them for this, then, strictly speaking, that is why she appeared here, to show that sooner or later one must pay for all crimes, especially if they are deliberate and repeated for a long time against the same person. The guy began to beg her to stop, but this was only the beginning. She just made it clear that the revenge had begun. Millia asks him, since he understands what pain is, why does he act like this anyway in order to ask for forgiveness? At this moment, her brother for some reason began to justify this person and even said that everything is fine with him. Then he looked at her hand, saw a red wrist and a bracelet on it, which is not worn for the sake of beauty. At first, she did not attach any importance to this. But then she looked at her own hand and could not believe that the control stone had become hot. And at such a temperature, the guards usually get a signal. Because of this, they can take her to the cell. For some reason, she did not reassure him. She even said that he would have to live alone, and he almost fell off his feet because of this, because he simply will not survive if someone or something takes away from him the opportunity to spend at least a couple of days with his sister. He begins to cry, his legs are shaking. He is afraid that for her such behavior he will be destroyed here for sure, or at the very least, they will treat him even worse. It so happened that in whose direction she looked, people were afraid of her and tried to move further away, even though they understood that this made no sense. It happened somehow intuitively. After some time, a man ran up to them, who had already been informed about what had happened, and of course he could not ignore this situation in any way. He even came faster than the girl thought. He had already started complaining about her, although those who do this doubt very much that a man in this situation is stronger than her. Everyone began to tell that she tried to offend the young hostess, but for some reason they do not tell about what happened after she did it. And then the supervisors ran up. They started asking her to report the unauthorized use of force that she had just used. Milia keeps calm so that she is perceived as a self-confident person and addresses a highly respected supervisor, with the words that she is not going to bring any excuses to her punishment because she understands that it is against the rules. However, reminded that His Majesty the King pays special attention to the potentially awakening future power of the kingdom, to which they replied that they, as overseers, were doing their duty by protecting them, and asked what she wanted to achieve by all this. She said, without a drop of fear, that she blames the whole mouth of Count Lorraine, and if necessary she can explain in detail what it is for, if someone does not know it yet. Namely, for the systematic mockery, cruel treatment and humiliation of a potential awakener, jointly with her brother. The girl demands, at the very least, an apology and repentance, and immediately after this, a just punishment for all their misdeeds. It can be seen on their faces that they perfectly understand that she is telling the truth, but they are still trying to twist the situation to their advantage as much as possible, and ideally so that she remains guilty at all. The two sides start to argue with each other, and the overseers look on, but it is not clear from their faces what they think about it. Their chief tries to take everyone's opinion into account, but at the same time he will do justice, as his duty obliges, and then the commander turns to militia, only it sounded so that she even got scared and tensed up a lot. The man says that regardless of the reason, unauthorized use of magic is a serious crime. However, the reason given by her contradicts the laws established by His Majesty the King. But this already sounds good. According to him, from this moment on, everyone who belongs to the Count's house is prohibited from leaving the estate, and an investigation into the fact of her mourning begins. And if everything turns out to be true, then the accused will not only be deprived of the title, but will also confiscate all their property. They will most likely be sentenced to 5 years in prison or even something worse. The man is outraged by all of the above. He begins to justify himself, as if the guy did not even have signs of awakening, to which he was told that even potential awakened ones are considered a valuable asset of the state. The commander thought that it seemed that the Count did not understand who he was talking to and, at the very least, did not respect their decision. And after that he asked how the man dared to recklessly encroach on His Majesty's property. That's not all. The girl thought that nothing would touch her, but the commander began to approach her and said that, in a moment, he will personally place Milia under the custody of the Department of Awakened Affairs, and at the same time he will handcuff her so that she does not run away. She presented it to herself in a different way, but it is better that way than if she had not highlighted this problem at all. Maybe when everything becomes clear, they will apologize to her, and in the meantime the brother is outraged that she is being treated like this. He tries to help her, breaks free, but they don't let him go and tries to explain that he is only making things worse with this. The lady somehow managed to approach him. She touched him and said that everything is fine. He can be calm because everything is not as bad as he thinks, and without it, there is nothing. The most important thing is already behind us. Now we have to wait for the results of the investigation and hope that it will not drag on for a long time. Maybe it seems that she acts thoughtlessly, but in fact all her actions are the result of careful calculation. If Hyakin was destined to become an S-class transcendent, she had already turned it into a means by which he could protect himself. However, the final boss suddenly appeared. She did not take this into account, and it turns out you will have to strain and improvise. He greeted her and said that she must be confused, because she had just woken up. Then he introduced himself as the prince of this country and asked to be called Isidor. He also decided to tell the word so that she would know that if the crown prince, his older brother, dies, or if there are serious problems with the succession to the throne, the right of the first inheritance will pass to him. And meanwhile, the girl is thinking why the prince would suddenly come to her and what is the connection in all this. She said that she was glad to meet you and that he joked very carefully, after which she thought that maybe all this is happening because, in the original, her brother was taken into custody by the crown prince. He started laughing and said that this is very shameless, and she says that now she is completely confused and would like to understand what is going on here at all. Although he thinks this situation is funny, he thought that now is not the time for jokes, and she once again pushed him to finally say something to the point. The guy asks what the supposed rank of her brother is, to which she replied that it is impossible to find out the supposed rank of the future awakened one. It would seem that this is all, but he said that sometimes there are cases when this is possible, and the rank can be predicted. The girl already feels that she will not like this conversation and nothing good will come of it, but she is still sitting here because of force. The guy begins to explain that he is not going to use her brother. On the contrary, he is trying to protect him. To her, these words sounded like he was trying to laugh at her or something like that. He says that it is strange. She suddenly applied for an academic leave in the middle of the semester and immediately went to her brother. He has a question. How did it happen? Did she suddenly find out that he was being mocked? And if so, then it is important for him to know who and when. He certainly has an assumption that she simply knew that her brother would wake up as a Superman, although Isidor does not know how exactly she became aware of the bullying in the Count's family. But he assumes that she should be, decided that if you leave your brother in such a situation, trouble may happen. After all, the psyche of superhumans is very fragile, and if they are not helped or at least not around, it usually ends badly for them. It is known that she is a girl of rank B, which is considered to be low, not low, and the fact that she went in such a hurry to her brother, the future awakened one, can only mean one thing. She knew that he was in danger, that he needed help, and rushed to protect him in all possible ways. Milia doesn't even know what to say about it and how to do it correctly, because he apparently understands it too well. And here the prince says that he is going to connect the girl and her brother with a family that, in his opinion, suits them better. After that, he asked to listen attentively to everything he would say to her on this occasion. The Count of Lorraine would be deprived of the right to be a patron, and his title would be confiscated. Half of the confiscated property as compensation for this incident will be credited to her brother's account. At that moment, she thought that everything would be solved somehow too easily, since she was even given compensation. He also said that she would be released soon, so you can not worry, and as soon as he leaves this room, she will be released immediately, after which she thanked him, only it sounded as if she did it with a questioning intonation. Isidor admitted that the more he looked at her, the more unusual and interesting she seemed to him, after which the lady said that, to be honest, he is the first to call her extraordinary, and for him to be the first for such a beauty is a great honor. Then he got up and warned that when he left, a representative of the patron's new family would meet her outside. And finally he said that Brondern is no match for Lorraine, so she can be calm. If the girl is not mistaken, the Duchy of Brondern is the family of the main character, Action. And then she thought that if she understands everything correctly, then it turns out that he is introducing her to the family of the main character, who will be the cause of her accidental death. Meanwhile, she silently screams so as not to attract too much attention to herself. Meanwhile, some time passed. The girl went outside for a walk because today is a beautiful evening weather when it is impossible to stay in the room. And even here the trees and flowers smell very nice, which can at least somehow brighten her mood. Looking at the beauty, it really becomes easier for her. Suddenly, her brother runs up. She thought that he would be calm and normally ask how she's doing, but he has some kind of panic. He grabs her hands, gets nervous, and blames the fact that she has done so much that everything could have ended much worse, and if it weren't for his highness, he would have simply lost his mind from excitement. The girl asks if it was impossible to approach her normally. Everything is normal, and it is a shame that he rated her hard. He tries to explain that he simply does not control himself and apologized if suddenly his behavior somehow offended her. She tells him that it's all right, so you can do without tears, but for him it sounded insulting. After all, he's a man, and that sounds terribly unpleasant. Meanwhile, some man approaches them and says from a distance that he is very glad to meet them for the first time. His name is Blair. He is from the Brondern family. He was entrusted with escorting the two of them to the Brondern Duchy. They came for them so quickly, although at first the girl didn't even understand who he was, and that he was just an escort. Here they have already arrived. The local luxury catches the eye even if it is a kilometer away from this beautiful mansion. The lady believes that it is not surprising, considering that they had enough money to build a mansion in the central district, which is considered the most expensive in the capital. Brother now understands why that man spoke like that, although the way he rejoiced that they had nothing to collect was simply disgusting. Milia at this moment thinks that, judging by the way he smiles at Hayakin's sarcasm, he is sure that he will somehow be able to tame them. The girl does not think so. She wants to know who decided to send her brother to Brondern. She took his hand and decided that they would never run away from this unbearable country and live happily ever after. But now they would have to suffer a little. For some time, he will have to watch very carefully those who approach his brother, literally day and night, especially that concerns the Sibylline crown prince, namely he having become close to the deceased grief-stricken Hayakin. The unfortunate man dragged him into the abyss, tempted him with promises of revenge. Therefore, he is especially dangerous, and if he is visible even on the horizon, it should be borne in mind that he never appears anywhere just like that. They came to Brondern on Prince Isidor's recommendation, partly to avoid that type, but that's not enough. The best option is to go with her to the military academy. Judging by the recent reaction, it is not long before the first manifestation. And meanwhile, the guy asks why she is looking at him all the time. She told him that she was just thinking when he would grow up. And after that, she continued to think that the first manifestation needed a push or a stimulus, and she would take care of that. After some time, he couldn't help himself. He wanted to know what was going on with her, and she told him that, as expected, he was still too young and easily provoked. Which means that it is best if there is a transcendental of the same level nearby. Meanwhile, Actaeon appears. He turned to his assistant and said that in general he upsets him a little. Father is already waiting, but the assistant is nowhere to be found. He seems to have disappeared, so he came down to check what is happening here. Every time it turns out that someone appears when she is absolutely not ready for it morally. Meanwhile, Blair tells the hostess that the processing process is delayed, so he is a little late, and the guy thinks that he should finish it soon and finally report. He exceeded all national expectations. He hasn't even entered the academy yet, but he moves more militarily than she. And his appearance is obscenely beautiful, which you want to look at all the time. Do not look away. Of course. He is the main character, and such characters cannot be inconspicuous. If he were not the one she needs to be afraid of, she might have succumbed to his beauty. In any case, since they will live under their care, you need to say hello and show some courtesy. They came closer to him. Millie began the first, and at the same time introduced herself and her brother so that he would not be embarrassed and ashamed. The guy thought that since the assistant already does not have time to do what he has already been entrusted with, it would be better to conduct the guests himself. This time, he will forgive him, but next time he will think up a punishment. Because lately the servants have really relaxed. They just started following him. The brother can't walk calmly, he's asking about something, but she didn't even hear him and is already angry that he's starting to spoil everything. He wants to know how much it is necessary for the two of them to live here, and she thought to herself that if he doesn't want it so much, then someone could already show their strength so that they wouldn't have to stay here, even a day. At some point, Actaeon's brother approached them, and his voices were so frightened that there was complete silence. The girl remembered that he was also on academic leave. Cassiel Brondern, the older brother of Actaeon and the second main male character. Not only is he annoying, he also constantly throws insults at anyone indiscriminately. But thanks to the main character, he will be corrected, and will desperately cling to her as long as necessary. And also this character, which Malia never liked, starting with his hairstyle and ending with his character. The guy asks his brother what the commotion is here, and he says that it's apparently just what was bothering him, but anyway, dinner is coming soon, so he advises him to prepare for it too. And here it began. Cassiel seriously asks if his brother is offering him dinner in the same room with some Class B. Actaeon replied that even if he doesn't want it, it is important to remember that his father will not tolerate his absence. They almost always talk like that. There is no compromise. And even if there is, it is very rare, by some inexplicable chance. Meanwhile, Cassiel says that since he decided to sponsor the underachiever, he expects his rank to be good. Only he does not understand why they stuck some rank B here, of which there are already enough. And Milia at that moment realized that he is simply obsessed with rounds. The guy simply does not perceive people, not taking into account this fact. When her brother asked in a whisper what was wrong with these aristocratic families, she did not even ask him to be silent, because she completely agreed with him and also wanted to know the answer to this question. Most likely, this is all because of their struggle for inheritance. That is why they are so angry and cannot react normally to anything. In the Brondern family, the following chapter is determined exclusively by the rank of manifestation. That is why this word is used so often here. For them, it literally means everything. Besides, there was that incident with Claire, Cassiel's twin. So it's no wonder they have a bad relationship. By the way, Actaeon should have developed an injury because of that incident. Milia thought that his condition would be much worse, but in life it turned out not to be the case. If he is in such a condition, perhaps she will be able to grow his ego correctly, without any injuries. Here they are already at the table. There is so much food that some dishes simply do not mix. And in the meantime, Actaeon says that he was wondering what happened when His Highness suddenly sent a servant. Then the head of the family spoke. He heard that the girl's younger brother had a very promising future, to which she replied that he was exaggerating because the guy didn't even show himself. After which she was told that His Highness's analysis and intuition almost never fail. Therefore, the fact that he sent her here must mean that she needs the help of a high-ranking transcendent. But personally, he does not quite understand why she needs to stay here, and she thought to herself that she herself does not want to be here at all. Glock Brondern, the head of the Bronarn family and an influential transcendentalist of rank, as well as the main character of the rumors about treason from behind the press. Transcendent and Cade, becoming spouses, usually seal each other. Seal allows you to adjust your magical power in advance to the unique power of your partner, then ensures fast and stable control at any time. Of course, there is also a drawback. The relationship becomes possible only with a sealed partner, so everyone perceives the seal as a debt and an oath of loyalty. However, the Duke not only did not put a seal on the Duchess, but also cheated. Actaeon became the victim of these difficult relations. Not only did he lose his mother at an early age, but he also had to grow up, constantly looking back at the Duchess. And the culprit of all this, the Duke. He saw in his son only a useful future that had manifested itself, and he did not care at all how the boy grew up, how he felt in such a family, and what problems he had. However, for the sake of high compatibility and effective stabilization of power, the man broke off the engagement of the Duchess with her lover and forcibly married her. And in the end, he didn't even put a seal and started an affair on the side, which is quite in the spirit of this person who is used to living like this all his life. Of course, such a person will be unpleasant to see in his house some guide of the rank B like her. For sure, she seems to him a greedy person who is trying to get into this family under the guise of a younger brother. For her, it is absolutely obvious. These people are very wrong, because she herself would have refused such a family. And yet it is necessary to say something nice, to maintain at least some kind of polite communication with them, and for it to be mutual, even if not truly. Meanwhile, Milia tells him that she herself is worried that her rank may tarnish the reputation of the Brondern family. Initially, her goal was to protect her younger brother so she can promise that everything will be like that. She plans to return to the academy in 6 months, and after graduation will immediately go to the garrison. For the next 6 months, she promises to behave as quietly as possible so that rumors do not spread that someone of her rank lives here. Therefore, she asks them not to worry about this, because she understands them very well and will try not to cause anyone any inconvenience. In short, she will change as much as possible, only what can be changed, and immediately leave this place at the first opportunity. The lady is quite herself. She said everything she wanted, and in such a way that no one will find fault with her words, although these people can do that. For the first time, the man looked at her without looking away, and then he apparently thought of something to say and continued the conversation. I didn't think of anything except how to say that if she had been, but of class, everything would have been fine, and yes, I'm very sorry. Someone else would have told her this. She might have started to argue, but knowing these people, the girl is simply not surprised. They don't know how to communicate normally, and you just have to accept it. Finally, the head of the family said that he hoped she would rest well here, and then put his glass on the table, and offered his wife to go somewhere, although he was offended that she did not finish her portion at all, and she had a fork in her hands. Naturally, she could not tell him anything. She had to interrupt her meal and give him her hand. She gives her hand, tries not to show that something is wrong, although she has been used to it for a long time, even when there is no one visiting. She somehow intuitively manages to please her husband, and it is so visible from the outside that if she knew about it, she would certainly do something about it. There is such a tense atmosphere that the girl almost suffocated. She is convinced every time that it will not be easy here. Suddenly, Cassiel, as usual, did not remain silent and said that he never ceases to be amazed at her pretense. He can assume that she lived like that, quietly pleasing everyone. But if this is talent, then so be it. Milia replied that she doesn't really like to stand out, and at that moment she didn't even look him in the eye. It's so unpleasant for her to communicate with him. This time he didn't keep silent. He asks, maybe it's not just that she can't, even if she wanted to. The lady at this moment thinks that Cassiel took a leave, of course, because of the incident with Claire. Claire was Cassiel's twin sister. For him, she was more family than Eis, class transcendent. The problem is that Claire, who already hated her power, under the pressure of having to destroy people on the battlefield, gradually began to lose her mind, and as a result, her mind finally broke down. In the end, losing her mind, Claire died along with her friend, fell into a rage. For Cassiel, it was an incident in which he lost his family at the same time. And for Actaeon, the incident in which Cade Claire, Arena, is the only one who treated him with kindness, died a terrible death right in front of his eyes. Because of this, the guy received a huge trauma for the rest of his life. And Cassiel, anger that has lost its direction, and it seems that it is already forever and will not heal in any way. Only the girl thinks that it is not anger, but rather both. At the country that pushed them to the front only because they are transcendent, and in the end, brought them to death. While she was thinking about it, she didn't notice that she stopped reacting to him, and he had already asked her a couple of questions during this time. The guy is outraged that she ignores him so much being in this house, as if testing his patience. She didn't really have time to answer him, and he got so angry that he ordered her to leave the room slowly. Otherwise, he simply couldn't stand being here with her. Milia certainly thought that he was a very difficult person, but now she saw that he really has problems with this. And here the brother decided to intervene. He says that His Highness told not to worry. He will find him a real aristocratic house, so very soon they will leave here to the joy of everyone. But at the same time, he does not understand the difference between that house and this one. And after that, he took his sister by the hand and began to leave so quickly, as if he understands that if he stays here even for a couple of minutes, it might end badly for him and his sister. Milia didn't even have time to react to this. She might have been able to resolve this conflict in some other way, but the brother decided everything for the two of them, and it is still unclear whether it is for the better or vice versa. They will still regret it. Two of you look at it. One is happy that he managed to expel them at least for a while, and the other is ashamed of him. He wanted to at least somehow show hospitality, but his brother does everything to prevent it from happening to him. When they had already passed half of the corridor, the girl began to stop him because he could not walk for so long at such a fast pace. It turns out the guy is not as angry with those two as he is with her, and now she finds out. He asks if she really brought Ridman Lorraine to such a state on purpose, to which she replies that this is not at all something that she can deny, after which he had another question. Does she really want to show how they leave her here? Or maybe she just likes it. In the end, he asked her to listen carefully to everything he had to say. Namely, if because of his rank she had to endure such treatment, then he didn't need such a family either. She reacted calmly, even with closed eyes and a calm voice answered that he is wrong about this. She is going to put him in the academy for 6 months. But this is news for him. The guy thought that he came here because of his awakening. After that, he asked how she could appear so calmly in his life. When she hadn't bothered to send a single letter before, Milia explained that she had a feeling that he was about to wake up, that's all. And also, indeed, in the Count's house, her magic reacted on him, and she did not contact him because she was afraid that if they got closer, it would only make it harder for him. Right after that, he asked her to stop making excuses, and his face looked like tears were about to appear. In this case, since everything turned out like this, she offers him to be together because this is the best and safest option for them. They are alone here. You will not expect support from anyone, so it is better to be together and not against each other, especially since they are brother and sister. Milia says that, of course, there are only a few months left until the end of the registration of those who have awakened, but they need to do everything in their power during this time. He asks how this is possible, and since when did she start believing in miracles, to which she replied that he just needed to trust his sister. It is natural that she is rejected here, and she is not worried, but he should be careful. As he had just seen, the Duke attaches great importance to ranks and achievements. Such people usually destroy others in pursuit of visible results. She just needs to get help to wake up from the patron's family. It's still part of state policy, so the girl owes nothing to these Brondiers. She really doesn't want her brother to die, caught up in the Duke's ambitions like someone else whom he knows well. Therefore, she asks him not to try to get into the secrets of this family. Otherwise, it may end badly, and they will both regret it later. He said that he understood everything, and suddenly Actaeon approached them, saying that he was seeing such unusual brotherly love for the first time. Then he began to slowly hint that he had only heard everything. Milia was very tense, and so was her brother. Now everything depends on what the guy has decided for himself and what he thinks about it. He says that as far as he understood correctly, they know everything very well here, and meanwhile the girl has only one question. Why did he leave? Did he guess that they were going to get help and escape immediately? How would everything work out? She asked her brother to go up to the second floor, and she herself is going to deal with it without him, so that he does not say anything superfluous. She explained that she just wants to talk. He cannot worry. She is not a conflicted person, so everything will be fine. After that, he asked her to come back as soon as possible, because the longer he's away from her, the more often he will think that something has happened. Here they are left alone. The brother leaves, but still tries to walk more slowly to overhear at least something. Meanwhile, Milia started with the fact that her family might end up in the same situation. Therefore, He asks if it's worth being a little more careful because who wants to get involved in someone else's complicated family affairs? After these words, he even came closer to her. Probably wanted her to be scared, but that was not the case. He has a question. Where did she find out about these family matters? He even repeated this question several times, as if it is very important to him now. In his eyes, you can see the fear that if she doesn't tell anything now, force will have to be used. It is understandable that now it is dangerous to show that she knows too much in front of this person. A lie will be easily exposed, so it is better to mix it with the truth. Milia says that there was an announcement that a superior S-class, who graduated early, suddenly died on the front line. It was a shocking event. A gifted genius died, on whom great hopes were placed. Naturally, this gave rise to a lot of rumors and conjectures. They said that he was destroyed by a new monster from the class, or that he himself did it to himself. She only weeded out the most ridiculous of these numerous rumors. Sometimes such conjectures remained surprisingly true, and also because she can find herself in the same position as him. The guy asks what she means by the phrase, in the same position, because when at a young age you receive an order to destroy the person you followed with all your heart. Even if this is the order of a madman, and it does not seem to him a suitable excuse for meddling in other people's family affairs, as she does. The girl does not agree with this because normal parents would not want to drive their child to the front line, covering themselves with debt. But when she saw the Duke at dinner, it seemed to her that he was not such a person at all. And even if he now says that he must go to the front, as if it were self-evident. Moreover, he had already heard about their circumstances, so he must understand that the most important thing for her is her own well-being and that of her brother. That is why she told her brother not to contact the Duke's family in order to prepare for unforeseen circumstances. And it seems that the Duke and other gentlemen desire the same. She is more sure of it. Then they talked a little more. She accidentally touched on an undesirable topic, and this is what he tells her, that if his brother or father heard it, and not he, her patronage would be cancelled. To this, she suddenly said that she absolutely did not care. And if he thought that she would apologize, then it is not so. If he still hasn't understood, then she doesn't want to challenge the sincerity of those who don't consider them and her brother to be people. He says that this has never happened, and she asks not to confirm what he cannot be sure of, because she has plenty of evidence. From the moment they arrived at the mansion, they treated her like an empty place, and they did it on purpose. She felt it. And his brother the Duke, as he himself could have noticed, even more so, does not try to soften his harsh words, even to guests who have not been here even half a day. What is he talking about? If everything started even before dinner, the situation was so tense that under any other circumstances, they would have left there a long time ago and would not have tolerated it. Even the maid who was introduced to her looked down on her. She silently brought the clothes and made it clear that since she was busy, it is desirable not to treat her with trifles, as if she were the mistress of this house. To this he said that, in fact, he wants to correct one misunderstanding, although it even sounds funny. She has been disappointed in them for a long time. The guy started with the fact that, first of all, he personally did not treat her like an empty space, and he knows this for sure. He says he just didn't want to get too close so she wouldn't think he was glad to see her here. And they could become friends. Then it became clear that he was having a hard time talking about something, so she immediately said that if he didn't want to, he might not even start. Immediately after this, he became noticeably ill. He began to sway from side to side, as if he was about to lose consciousness. The girl became nervous because she realized that suddenly, she would not even be able to hold him or lift him from the floor. Then she took a closer look and realized that these could be symptoms of the first manifestation, and most likely, that's how it is. It just so happened that his first manifestation was supposed to happen today. This is some kind of suddenness that is impossible to believe. She only tried to support him. He spoke up and asked her to call someone, for example, an assistant. In any other situation, she would have listened to him. But now she immediately said that it was better not to. If you leave him like that, he will be lured. And inside he will tear his heart, and he can fall into the magical. But this is only the first manifestation. So you need to be all the more careful with it, and be under supervision. She tries to understand that it is not Blair that he needs now, but Cade continues to assure her that he is really all right. In order not to waste time, she asked if there was a special key in it that could somehow stabilize it. He does not react to this in any way. He is simply silent, as if he is deliberately ignoring or is afraid to admit that there are no such people in this house. The girl concluded that if there was such a person, he would have told about it. But he is silent. This means that there is no such person here except her. This situation is very similar to his manifestation in the original. Perhaps her appearance in Brondir has changed something. Now the main thing is to answer the question for yourself. Is it right to help Actaeon now? Because it can be such that, according to the original, she will simply perish, saving his life. It's good that she knows this, so it will be easier for her to make a decision. The girl will understand the consequences in case of this or that decision. Milia suddenly asked herself what she was thinking about when a person was suffering right in front of her. These are all the results of her impulsive actions. She thinks that it is better to act. After all, she came here to change the future. Also, the girl mentally apologized to the professor. She promised not to create problems, but she herself is doing something for which they can arrest her. Even if she is dragged into the administration, one can only hope that, even if she is not imprisoned, she will say that he was in a critical condition. And she just wanted to help because that is what any other normal person would have done in her place. While she is holding him, he asks what she is going to do and seems to understand roughly, to which she tells him that under no circumstances should he forget what happened today, and she will try to help him in this. You need to find some place where the magic got tangled up if you unravel it. Only then, at some point, she realizes that everything is not as she thought. The girl feels that this is not magic at all. It is rather the emotions of the Actaeon. Emptiness, loneliness, coldness, fear, and all this at the same time. He no longer likes what he feels, asks him to hurry, and she begs him to wait because it will last as long as necessary and she has no influence on it. The guy has never heard that emotions are synchronized during driving, and this is also a novelty for her, as well as for him. A couple of minutes passed, the tangled magic unraveled, so now everything should be in order. They did the most difficult thing. They both relaxed, but it was too soon because somehow Milia felt that something was wrong. She is not completely in control of what is happening now. The girl was scared because in such a situation it is very wrong. She clearly felt that the Actaeon's heart absorbed her power, although she did not think that the behavior of an S-class super being was always like this. She begins to lose consciousness, and he is already thinking of removing his hand, because if he continues, something will happen to her, and he will never forgive himself for this. He decided to call a doctor, and she asked him not to do this while he can barely speak, but this only makes him lose more strength. Some time passed. The next day came. Milia gradually wakes up, opens her eyes because the bright sun is shining on her. She still doesn't realize what's happening. For her, all this time flew by in a second and she didn't understand anything. Now she is fully woken up, begins to remember what happened before, and was the first to see her brother in front of her. He asks if everything is okay with her, how she feels, and the girl says that she thought she would die because this has never happened to her. He asked her to drink a glass of water first. The water will start the body, and in general, it will definitely not get worse. Before this, the girl somehow did not turn her head to the side and therefore, probably, did not notice that they were not just the two of them here. Actaeon was sitting next to him on a chair all this time, and now he suddenly spoke, and she almost choked and spat everything at him. Milia asked what he was doing here. He didn't say anything to that, but he also asked the question, does she always live like this, one day, like a butterfly? Because she knew that it was dangerous to kill him at that moment, but she still did it without thinking about herself. He is interested to know if it was really so important that the girl made such a decision without thinking, despite. Milia asks how she could go looking for someone else, knowing that in her absence anything could happen, and she felt guilty for the rest of her life. The guy is sure that he could handle everything anyway. He does not consider himself so weak, but she thinks the opposite, because when it comes to health, you should never overestimate yourself. Sometimes it can be disastrous. The lady seriously believes that if it weren't for her, he probably wouldn't be alive anymore. After which he asked if he correctly understood that that's why she didn't care what would happen to her in the end. Then these two started arguing with each other, and she can't stand it, so she decided to do something about it. The girl says that she doesn't care how much longer they can play peepers. The only thing that interests her now is what happened while she was locked out. The brother says that nothing special has happened and there is nothing for her to worry about. And Millie says that she means it is important for her to know how everything turned out. In theory, she should have woken up in the solitary cell of the awakened control. But she is here, and for some reason the brother is in no hurry to explain anything. He says that he will find out later. He is now more interested in how hungry she is. And then Milia finds out that she was unconscious for 2 whole days. Although until that moment she was sure that no more than half a day had passed. She doesn't even have words to somehow describe her emotions, and she also doesn't like that something is being hidden from her. The brother insists that she eat first anyway, and only then think about everything else, seeing that she would like to do the exact opposite. They took care of her, so she didn't even have to get out of bed. The girl waited, and now she already has everything she needs in her bed: light fresh soup, water, and a napkin. She's still thinking about what really happened and why it is so difficult to get them to say anything, even without details. Not only that she was transferred to a room of a higher class than the one she had at the beginning, but also that the servants treat them with extreme respect. In the meantime, she asked her brother if, while she was lying around, he managed to become an aristocrat, but the guy did not quite understand this question. After that, he simply asked her to eat faster and take medicine, because he would not be able to control her constantly. And here Atheon asked for a little attention. He has a question for her, and Milia thought at that moment, maybe he wants to slowly approach the topic that interests her. He asks how she thinks he felt when she fell right before his eyes, although the question is somehow strange. The first thought that came to her, maybe he was confused like any other person in his place, thinking how everything will be fixed, she has no other options. The girl just apologized for doing it her way, and he says that he doesn't need an apology at all, and he didn't talk about it for the sake of it. Suddenly, she says that in general, he also experienced a dangerous moment, so instead of reproaches, it would be better to say, "Thank you." She is not one of those people who likes to discuss something bad for a long time and prove herself right. Instead, you can just get over it and not think about the bad. Then she asked if he would argue with this, and he said that she was absolutely right, and there was nothing to discuss. Milia admitted that she is glad that everything is okay with him now, because she was also very scared earlier, and in principle understands his feelings. And here the brother says that once the boy has understood, then he should thank him properly and not think that it will be so easy. Atheon pretended not to hear anything, didn't even look in his direction, and continued talking to Milia. The management says that it was similar to an abnormal reaction of the force when the person first wakes up. This also proves that his supposed rank is very high, and the problem is that in the process of absorbing power, some problems might arise. He might have some part of his body left, and in the worst case, the absorbed power could flow back, and he would simply burst from the inside, which is even scary to imagine. The lady thought that if she hadn't saved him, she would have received so many accusations from the Duke's family, and knowing the Duke's character, this would simply have lasted indefinitely. Atheon gently takes her hand, looks to see if she's against it, but as it turned out, that's not all he wanted to say. He believes that all the good things they have now are thanks to her. Otherwise, some of them simply would not be alive. It all looks very cute, but not for one person who looks at it and can't stop it anymore. He already hints that it was enough to simply thank him with words, and they continue to ignore him. Actaeon stayed here for too long. He's already going to leave and finally promised to tell his father that the lady has come to her senses. And of course, he wished her all the best. The girl reacted to this somewhat neutrally, but her brother literally breathed a sigh of relief as soon as they finally stayed here together. The guy just closed the door. He has already started asking his sister not to get close to him anymore, as if he is a bad person. And she will soon see for herself. She does not quite understand how he can say such a thing, and that Actaeon did such a bad thing. But in order to really relax, she asked him to leave too, especially since everything is fine with her and it is not necessary to look after her now. Milia thought that this time everything worked out somehow, but who knows what will happen during the second awakening. In the novel, the girl woke up quite late. So 6 months later, during the second awakening of the Actaeon, she won't be able to kill him since she can't. So it's necessary to find a second high-ranking killer and do so. For him to conduct the kiting of the Actaeon's second awakening, then both the Milia and the Actaeon will be able to avoid death with a high probability. Only here, right now, she is very much embarrassed by one thing. There is such a feeling inside as if she's a little uncomfortable. She thought that after the soup it would be easier somehow, but apparently that is not the case and everything is much more serious. Only it is not clear what all this means. She spent all this time in the room, not even thinking of going out to give her body a rest and recovery. The girl is already reading a book and suddenly an assistant knocks on her. He apologized for the disturbance and promised that if the lady allows him to enter, it will take no more than a minute. The lady first allowed him to enter, and then asked who he was because she was seeing him for the first time, to which she received the answer that the Duchess had sent him to check on his health. The guy greeted her with a smile, said that he was glad, that everything was fine with her, and very gently made her feel at home. It is very pleasant to be in the same room with him, but he literally exudes security and something good. As usual, the girl got up from the bed to say hello to him, and he got worried so that she wouldn't get worse and said that she shouldn't have strained so much for his sake. Millia said that even in such a state, she couldn't make a man stand while she was sitting. The guy did not expect that she is so polite and thinks not only about herself, like most girls of her age. The lady thought that even though they were seeing each other for the first time, he saw himself as if he had been his academic supervisor for a long time and as if they had already known each other before. Suddenly, he asked for some reason whether she likes riddles, but it is still unclear. And here it is related to her well-being. She tells him that it's not special, but for some reason he says that since she adores them, it's very cool. And he also knew about it. He literally ignored her answer and already offers to start some kind of quiz, although Millia still does not understand anything. The first question sounded like, "Who is he for Brondern?" And she looks at him and can't understand if this is some kind of joke or not. She has such a feeling as if she met Isidora again, only in a different person. There is no other way to explain it. Meanwhile, the guy says that if he just says what for what, it will be uninteresting, so he asks her to try to guess. And for her, this once again confirms the fact that all the characters are so mysterious. The girl apparently decided to play by his rules. He is one thing for her, and she is another for him. Millia pretended to admire his hair and asked what kind of soap he used, and he began to tell with a smile that he made it himself and could give her a few pieces, after which she refused and said that she simply noticed how he looked after them. Well-groomed hair, neat clothes, and such a troublesome occupation as making soap. And if you compare it with the current situation, he is undoubtedly an apothecary, and she really surprised him with this answer. He called her very clever for it, after which he asked if he smelled of medicine, to which she replied that it was not the case, because if a person cares about cleanliness and knows how to make something, then he is more of an apothecary than a doctor. And then a question appears to her. Since when do pharmacists conduct examinations? To which he replied that since Mr. Algrim, the attending physician, is now absent, so he came instead. After that, he showed the medicine that he had prepared with special care. According to him, it would help her regain her strength in the shortest possible time. In the era of strife, pharmacists and doctors are as valuable specialists as high-class cades, especially pharmacists who can purify the magical energy of transcendentals and create pills called Nexium from it. They are in great demand. Of course, since this is someone else's magical energy, although it is purified, the side effects are quite strong, but the improved Nexius is another matter. This is the finished version, without the shortcomings of the original drug, which was originally created as the first versions. There are only 30 apothecaries in the entire kingdom capable of creating this improved Nexium. But after all, the medicine that she received is the same improved elixir, which means that this person does not feel sorry for her, and this is very valuable. Since he created it with his own hands, he deserves a lot of gratitude, because it is not only rare ingredients but also his time and even reputation, in case something goes wrong with the medicines. Meanwhile, he asks her to rest more today and not strain if possible, so much so that she does not even get out of bed. Because usually, judging by his vast experience, people like her usually don't listen and then come back in an even worse state. This was said not as a joke, but simply as information that should be taken into account. The guy remembered that he promised not to stay long, so he was already leaving and warned that he would return in about a couple of days. And if her condition worsens, then he can come at any time, when it is convenient for her, and if she wants it at all. Despite the fact that they communicated normally, Millia was happy that he left surprisingly easily, because it was already difficult for her to hold on. She is already saying aloud to herself that if rumors spread that she vomited blood, who knows what Hyakin will throw out? You can expect anything from him. In the end, despite her firm intention to recover quickly, she was sick for a whole week and almost did not leave the room all this time, as she was asked. All this time, Weld came every morning to check on her condition and told her how slowly she was recovering. Also, every day she had to change her clothes and restrain herself so as not to cause any kind of conflict, because sometimes he overstepped. And then she thought that today this would come to an end, because it is simply impossible to sit and lie in one place. Wald finally allowed her to move, starting today, although before that he gave a lot of warnings, but it doesn't bother her now. Her eyes literally light up with happiness, that finally you can feel at least some freedom and not be under constant control. Her brother and Actaeon were in the room with her. And of course, as usual, the brother decided to warn in advance that someone's help is not needed here, and that someone may not even think about getting lost in the company imperceptibly. To which the guy says that, in his opinion, Now it would be better if he intervened. Milia sometimes doesn't notice when they start to quarrel. It seems as if it's fun for them and they do it out of boredom. Literally, only that she was completely alone. And there are already so many people here that she will soon have a headache, and not only that. Of course, she couldn't get away from them just like that. She just hinted that she wanted to go for a walk. The brother just like that ran after her, and Actaeon also understood everything and decided to join. At the same time, he absolutely does not care what Hyakin thinks about it. This is not the first time when she is already sick of how they try to fight for her attention. Because of this, she can't really be alone. They seem to compete, who is more important to her and who she will reject first. Completely not thinking about the fact that maybe she wants to be alone and rest from them. They also call each other unpleasant words, testing their patience and trying to show themselves to be stronger and funnier. In the end, the brother was somehow able to hint to the guy that today he and his sister need to be alone together without any extra ears. And for now, the Actaeon stands in the same place and does not gather to spoil everything. Suddenly, he slowly began to follow them, but did not catch up. Milia noticed this and asked what was the matter, and he began to justify himself that he also needed to go on business. And it just so happened that he also had to go in the same direction as them. Only today, a lot of people are leaving. There is some chaos in the stable, which means that if they go separately, someone will have to wait longer for the carriage. Thus, he suggested that we all go together so that there would be less trouble. Of course, it was not without a smile, which seemed to know in advance that no one would refuse him. Suddenly, the girl hit him lightly on the forehead. He stood for a while without blinking and thought, "Что это еще такое?" After that, she smiled and said that she did it out of boredom and now they can go if he certainly hasn't changed his mind. Meanwhile, the girl is already in the guest house. They immediately started the case. They say the management again sent a notification about illegal activity. Isidor was just wondering what the matter was. He immediately called her, heard that she was here, in the bank. After that, he asked if she didn't think that everything was not so bad for the receptionist, and of course she agreed with it. At this moment, Milia is half engrossed in the conversation, and inside she is thinking about why all the plans went awry today. Even Actaeon followed them with his brother. And not just in one direction, they would also have to go back together. The lady came to the bank to borrow some money, and there is some kind of boss monster with whom one punishment communicates. It's also good that both Actaeon and Hyakin went about their business. Otherwise, she would have simply lost her mind with them. If these three got together, it would be easier to just lose consciousness than to try to feel comfortable among them. It would be so terrible that she does not want to imagine such a thing for even a second, so that even the thought does not make it worse. Meanwhile, the guy asks how she lived in Brondern, to which she tells him that, thanks to him, and not with her brother, they received a more than decent reception. No matter what, Isidor wondered what happened to the incident she was talking about. According to the report, Actaeon Brondern had his first manifestation and, as far as he knows, due to bad omens, he had to conduct unauthorized kiting. He saw that she didn't feel well, so he said that she didn't do anything wrong, so you don't need to be so upset. And after that, he asked if he understood correctly that she came today to check the compensation he was talking about. The girl answered in a shy voice that, in general, it is. She probably waited a long time for him to start a conversation about it because she did not want to start first. Suddenly, he says that he has a free day today and offered to follow her. Milia did not understand why it was necessary, so she asked why. Naturally, she could not refuse him. They are already walking around the local market. Millie began with the fact that for a person from the royal family, to inspect the life of the people is also an important obligation. Accordingly, I wonder why he decided to perform this duty with her and not with someone else. He explained this by saying that she had earned a good job thanks to him, and in such cases it is customary to treat. Then he remembered that someone had told him that the chef, who had returned from the royal palace, had opened his own restaurant, and at that moment she was thinking why he was talking about it. It was probably not for nothing. After some time, they have already returned. It seems like they are saying goodbye, and he will ask for it. Try not to call him, your community, in front of everyone. Instead of that, it is better to just say, Mr. Isidor, if of course, it will be convenient and easier for me anyway. She tries to make it clear that it is somehow strange to communicate with him just by name, and that he says that in that case, perhaps it is better for them to decide on roles. He offers to stop at this option. A nobleman who hides his identity and a walking commoner. He always wanted to try this, but the girl immediately refused. Firstly, she was a little offended by what he called her. Secondly, she thought that something better could be invented. She believes that this is already too much, although she herself has no options. but she is in no hurry to agree to it. The guy understood her and said that in any case he is counting on her today, and meanwhile she is walking and thinks that he will say something else that she cannot expect from him. It is in his style. They didn't even have time to stay on the street for a long time. Someone already joined them. You don't even need to guess who it might be. The brother asks how much he was late, and at that moment she remembers that she did not come here alone and completely forgot about it. She asks Isidor if he doesn't mind if there are a lot of people with them, hoping that he will answer at least a little politely. He says that it's okay. It will even be fun, especially since he rarely sees people so much that it's even nice to see everyone. It's a pity that she doesn't think so. On the contrary, the fewer people around, the better and calmer. They have already reached the shopping street. This is the first district, and if you do not take into account all the circumstances, then it is very good here. Everything around is very tidy, beautiful. People behave politely, and no one shouts, causing inconvenience to everyone around, as it happens in other places. Also, they ran very quickly into a restaurant. Now they have already left there, and Isidor hopes that everyone liked everything. Milia asks him if he didn't tell her to pay according to the bill, to which he says that he was joking and she might not even think about it. After that, she became interested. Maybe he needs something from her, and he hinted that he would like a lot, even too much. He also asked if she had guessed about it only now, and also smiled so much that she felt embarrassed. It seems to be comfortable to communicate with him, but there are moments when he says something too ambiguous that leads to different thoughts. They stay together all the time. At some point, they started discussing one topic and almost had a fight, but the guy stopped in time and offered to go to the cathedral. It seems to her that she is starting to get involved in something strange, so it is better to stay away as much as possible. Since the very morning, everyone has been behaving as if they are mocking her and testing her patience, which is already beginning to run out. The moment will come when she will say that they are tired of everything and she wants to be alone, at least for one day. Suddenly, her brother approaches her and asks what it was, because he saw everything perfectly and did not take his eyes off her. And she does not know how to explain everything to him, because she herself does not fully understand what. And even Actaeon approached them with the words that, in general, in society, that guy is considered a freak with oddities or an immature child. They say that he is not interested in state affairs, and he only pursues his own hobbies, which is important to keep in mind. Despite what she had just heard, the girl replied that he could not be such a frivolous person. Actaeon said just in case that he warned her, and if something